Hello, everybody. My name is Bailey. I am one of the iDecide customer success coaches here. I do trainings every Tuesday that teach new users how to send out iDecide presentations. And we always get requests on Go High Level and Zapier integration trainings. So this week is our first week doing that. So this is going to be our very first live Zapier training. So bear with me as I might stumble through this. It'll get more tight and concise the more that we go. And then, of course, your feedback at the end is vital. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, what you wish that you learned, and what questions you still had. So I did prepare a short presentation for you, and then I'm going to actually screen share and show you how to set up automations. We're going to cover just a few things. One, what even is Zapier? So maybe you guys use something like HubSpot or like another CRM. Pipedrive is another one that I always hear. We don't directly integrate with those things, but Zapier does. So I'm going to go over what is Zapier in case you really have never heard of this amazing tool. Understanding what some of the terms that Zapier uses even mean. Connecting iDecide with your favorite apps, Google Sheets, HubSpot, Pipedrive, Gmail, and then how to actually build out automations. And of course, I'm going to open it up to a live Q&A at the end. So first and foremost, what is Zapier? Before we dive in, of course, that's like the most important thing. So Zapier acts as a bridge between two apps that don't typically integrate together, um, but they do through Zapier. So let's say you have HubSpot, as I've used the example of. We don't directly integrate with HubSpot, but through Zapier, you can connect iDecide to Zapier and then HubSpot to Zapier, and then Zapier will let us talk to each other so that you can create these automated workflows and you don't have to manually send anything. So, some of the really important things that you have to know when learning how to use Zapier is, and also I don't know if it's Zapier or Zapier, so I do think I just interchanged them. Um, Zaps are what they call workflows. So, what is your automation? They call it a Zap. A trigger is the event that starts that Zap. So, it's the thing like when this happens, I want everything in this automation to start. An action is okay, after this automation starts, what do you want the automation to do? And then when it is published, Zaps run automatically anytime that trigger occurs. So I'm going to show you how to build a really simple automation, but what you can do with Zapier is absolutely insane. You can have it do the most insane advanced things. I'm going to do really basic. I'm going to use examples using Google Sheets instead of an actual CRM so that everybody can kind of get an understanding. But here's what I'm going to build today. I'm going to build it where anytime that you add a new contact to your CRM, it's automatically going to create a personalized iDecide link for that contact. And then it's automatically going to send the presentation to that contact. And so, kind of once this is live, is you add a contact to your CRM and the rest happens automatically. So, I'm going to go ahead and screen share. And we're going to actually pull up Zapier. So, this is my Zapier account, and what I'm going to create is I'm using a Google Sheet instead of an actual CRM, but you can use any CRM. So basically, as we're going through and we're building out this process, anywhere that I have Google Sheet, you would replace it with HubSpot. So my first trigger is going to be with the Google Sheet. You're just going to replace that with like your HubSpot, okay? So, for example, I created this Google Sheet that I'm going to use as my temporary CRM. And I have these headers so that I can keep track of who I'm sending to, how to contact them, and what their personalized iDecide link is. So, I always like to start with at least one test row because it makes it easier in Zapier. Now, when you go over here into Zapier, I'm going to create a new Zap. And this is basically our blank slate of, okay, what do we want to create? The opportunities are endless. I'm going to rename this as live training sample. Okay, and then remember, what we went over is the trigger is what do we want to happen that tells Zapier to start this automation? So the trigger here is going to be I want it to, anytime I add a contact to my Google Sheet, I want it to send things automatically. So step one is going to be adding Google Sheet. And then let me hide my floating meeting controls. Then you basically just follow the prompts on the pop-up to set up the app for this. So the trigger event is I'm going to have anytime a new or updated spreadsheet row, because what it's setting up is when I add a new row here, I want it to tell Zapier to create the personalized link. So I'm going to have a new or updated spreadsheet row, and then you're going to connect your Google account. So I'm going to use the Hi at iDecide one. Click continue. And now you're configuring this step. So which spreadsheet in the Hyatt iDecide account do we want to register when a new row is added? And I'm going to use this Zapier live training sample because that's the name of my sheet here. The worksheet is just going to be if you have multiple tabs down here, but you can see I only have one. So sheet one. And then the trigger column, I'm going to have it be the email. So anytime I add a new email to this list, it is going to trigger Zapier to do my automation. And then you can test it, test the trigger. And you'll see the reason that I like to put in a sample column first is because it does show you this record here, and then it'll be easier for us to do the rest of the steps because we'll actually have some sample data in there. But you can see that this has all the information that is over in my sheet, so you know that it is pulling in the correct data. So I'm going to say continue with selected record. Now we're going to say, okay, so when I add a new contact to my list, I want it to create a personalized iDecide. So I'm going to search for iDecide. And you can see here, iDecide. This is for if you have a pro subscription and you build your own interactive presentations, you can do some really advanced analytics. And we have a whole knowledge base article on how to do this. But for the sake of this training, I'm just going to show you how to actually send out the presentation. So we're going to use iDecide. And then same thing, you're just going to follow the prompts here. Active action event. We want it to create a personalized iDecide link. You can also have it create a post a link, but this is going to be generic. So I always recommend doing personalized. And then it already has me logged into our iDecide subscription, but this is where you would log in using your iDecide email and password for your subscription. Okay, great. So now we're saying, okay, so we want to create this personalized link. We have to tell iDecide who is this personalized link for. We are going to click on this plus sign here, and this is going to pull in all that information that we got from the first step. So you can see here, it's pulling in that sample data so you know which columns it's going to add where. So the viewer's name, it doesn't give you the full name because I have it all split out between first and last name. So what we're going to do is we're going to do first name, add a space, and then do the last name. So then when it is creating this contact in your iDecide subscription, it's going to have their full name in this whole column, right? Because you could have two. Oh, hey. Okay. The viewer's email, you're again going to click on this plus sign and we're going to pull the information from the first step. And viewer's phone number, same thing. The CRM specific ID, this is going to be so important if you're using something like HubSpot. Because then for the second step, when you're choosing to like send an email, you can have it reference the HubSpot specific ID or the CRM specific ID, and it knows to send an email to that specific contact. It's not really going to play a part here since I'm not using an actual CRM. I'm just going to be using this Google Sheet. But this is very important if your first step is a CRM like HubSpot, Pipedrive. It's really important that you go to this plus sign and you look for that ID here. Again, here, this row ID is not it. That's just because I'm using a Google Sheet. But if you're using a CRM, you will look for this specific ID. And then iDecide presentation is which presentation do you want them to send? And it's going to show you all of the presentations in your account. I obviously, as the iDecide account, I have every single presentation that we've ever made in here. So I'm just going to do a presentation test for the sake of this test and click continue. And now we're going to test this step. Okay, great. So now you'll see if I take this, I'm hoping presentation test has some content in it. It should say welcome Bailey. Perfect. So we know that it's working because it's saying the first name of the person in this account. Great. Now we want to come over to, now we want it to add this link over here in this column. So I'm going to set up a second action, add step, that is something with the Google Sheet. And what do we want this event to be? So add the action. I want it to update a cell. Create spreadsheet row, create. I'm looking for something that says like update a row. Okay, here we go. Update spreadsheet row. And continue. The action events or the trigger events are going to drastically change based on whatever the app is. So all of these actions are things that Google Sheets allows you to do. If you are using something like HubSpot or Pipedrive, their actions might be completely different. It's totally based on whatever that app lets you do. So again, I'm just going to update the spreadsheet row because I want to update this existing row to include the personalized link here and click continue. And then this is going to ask you, okay, well, what do you want it to do? So drive. I'm going to go find my spreadsheet so that it knows what is it updating. You're going to choose the drive, which sheet, again, look for Zapier live training sample worksheet. I only have one. And then it's going to say, okay, which row? This is going to be where you want it to be that row ID. So it's going to show row 2. This is going to pull the sample data. Aha. Okay. We're going through this together in real time. Okay, so if you hard code something in here, it is always going to update the same thing. So you could see here, what sparked me to look for something else is I don't like that it's showing 2 as a hard-coded static number. I want to see something more like row ID with like a light 2 as a sample. But if I see that this is hard coding in 2, every time it creates a presentation link, it's always going to update the second row. We do not want that. Obviously, if we're adding a new contact to row 3, we want it to update row 3. So how to change this is I'm going to delete this, refresh, and I'm going to click on this and click on custom, enter a custom value. And then this is going to allow me to pull the information from my other steps. So I'm going to pull from this first step, and here is where I could see the row number 2. Now this looks a lot better to me because now it's going to update the row that it's getting from that first step. So now if I update row 3 or 4, it's going to say row 4 in here, and then it's going to update row 4. So this makes it a little bit more dynamic, which is what we want. We don't want it to keep updating the same thing over and over again. And this is going to be something important to look for um, in your CRMs as well. I don't really care about these rows because these should probably all be um, updated already. But you could see that these are going to say the same things, first name, last name, email, phone, as your headers over here. So again, if you have an actual CRM, these are going to be pre-populated with whatever your CRM field names are. But what I wanted to update is this personalized iDecide link column. And I'm going to, again, click on this plus sign. I'm going to pull the personalized link it got out of the step from iDecide, and I'm going to have it add that URL to the column. The rest doesn't matter. I don't care what it looks like, and then click on continue. And we're going to test this step. Okay. Now, when we come over here, you'll see that it added the personalized link into this column, which is exactly what we want. And when we click on this link, it will say, welcome, Bailey. Perfect. So now we know this is working correctly. Everything is good to go on here. I'm going to publish it. Someone says, is this going to be recorded and sent out? Yes, I do have this recording and I am going to send it out to everyone that is joining today or that registered for the presentation or for the training. Okay, so now we successfully created our first part of the Zap of the automation that we wanted to do is every time that we update this spreadsheet or our CRM, it is automatically going to create a personalized link and add it back into the CRM of choice. So I'm going to test this and I'm going to put, let's say, Mike at, we'll just say Mike at iDecide.com. And then we are going to have to give it a second because it's automated. We have to give everything a chance to talk to each other. So we need Google to talk to our Zapier and then Zapier to talk back to our Google Sheet. So while we wait to just check and make sure that that's working, like I said, I'm going to create an automation that automatically sends out the personalized link. So we have done step one where it adds a new contact to our CRM, which is our Google Sheet. We've done step two, which automatically creates that personalized iDecide link. Now we're going to automatically send that presentation to the contact. So we're going to come back over into our Zaps and I'm going to start a new Zap for it. Create. I'm going to rename it and I'm going to say send link. I'm going to say live demo. Just so that my team knows what these are. Okay, so now what's going to happen is every time a new link is added into column E, I want to tell Zapier to send them an email with that link in it. So we're going to have the trigger be the Google Sheet again. I'm going to set up the information. So new or updated spreadsheet row account. I'm going to have it be the Hyatt iDecide one. Continue. Sheet. And then you're going to just, again, set this up. Trigger column is now I want the column to be the personalized iDecide link. Every time a new link is added into this column, I want to send an email. Okay, test the trigger. And it should pull both of them. Okay, so this makes me think. Okay, here we go. So now you'll see that it automatically, our first app worked. This should say Mike. Perfect. And I know that it has Michael because I already have this email in my iDecide account connect to a name Michael, but you probably won't have the email yet, so it'll create a brand new name and it'll use the name actually in your CRM. Oops. Okay, so now we are going to use this sample so that I could see, okay, what information do we have? I'm going to continue a selected record as the sample. And now you could do anything. So maybe you send through HubSpot, maybe you send through Pipedrive. I see someone say, can I hook this up to Top Producer? I think that might be an app. As long as it connects with Zapier, you can do that. For the simplicity of just knowing that everybody probably has access to the samples I'm showing, I'm going to have it connect to Gmail. And then you're going to say, okay, what do you want it to do? I'm going to have it, you will have it send. I'm going to have it create a draft because I don't want it to send anything yet, but you'll have it send an email. I'm going to have it create a draft. Change. Sure. Okay. So now we're going to set up, okay, what do we want this email to say? And you're going to follow this configuration. Again, every CRM or messaging platform is going to be different. I know that you could also do texting. If you have like a texting platform, you can connect it so that it sends a text message with the personalized link. So your options and your opportunities are endless. But again, for a Gmail, we're just going to say, okay, who do we want this to be to? I'm going to have it pull from the CRM. the email. And I'm going to have the subject say, your interactive experience is inside. And then you're going to have it be from your email. Okay. And then the from name, I'm going to have it say Bailey B. And this from is going to be whatever you use to sign in the sign up part. And then again, we're going to have just, okay, what do you want it to say? Hi. And then I'm going to pull in my contact's first name. Here is the interactive experience that I personalized for you. And we are going to, again, click on this plus sign because we want to add in whatever their actual personalized iDecide link was. Talk soon. And then your name. Of course, your email should be a little bit better. It should be more enticing to read. But I just, for the sake of showing you an example, want to show you how you can take content from your CRM and add their first name, use that personalized link that we created in the first step. And then you could do all these other things. Again, every app is different, and then we can go ahead and test the step. I actually don't have access to this iDecide scripts at Gmail. I don't think we actually use it. So you could test the step. I have it just creating a draft. I would recommend, as you're testing this and just making sure that it works, have it send a draft from Gmail, and then you could always change this so that it actually sends out the email once you're happy with the way the drafts are looking. So now we have the full iDecide process. You have the first app that is going to create the personalized iDecide link and add it to your CRM. Then you have the second one that automatically sends the presentation once that link is created to the contact in your CRM. So all you have to do really is add a name. So we'll add Carly N and then Carly test we'll just do gmail.com. And then in a few seconds, the link will be created. And then a few seconds after that, the email will be drafted. So it really automates what you can do. The options and the opportunities are seriously endless. I know that Zapier also has, I think it has a step with ChatGPT. Yep, OpenAI. So you can actually put in a column here about their likes and interests. So maybe they chose to interests. Maybe they are interested in joining your team, or maybe they're joining. Their interests are they work for a restaurant called Good Foods, Good Eats. Then what you could do is you could also have ChatGPT read their interests and create a personalized email and like write the email for you that actually addresses whatever you have in that interest. Or in your CRM, if you have them tagged as different things, like let's say you have them tagged with, if you are a health company and you know that Bailey struggles with headaches, constant fatigue, and loss of appetite, you can put her interests in there, have ChatGPT write an email that specifically touches on her specific health cases. So there's that option. I'm going to delete that. There's all these different apps in here. I think they have like thousands. Search 7,000 apps and tools. So Calendly, you could automatically have it added to your calendar. Lead Connector is Go High Level, but we do integrate directly with Go High Level. So if that's something you're interested in, you could always just send an email to hi@iDecide and we can help you with that directly. Airtable, I don't know if you use Airtable as a CRM. ClickUp, HubSpot, I saw Notion on there. Zoom, it can automatically create Zoom links. There's so many things that Zapier can do for you automatically. Send people Slack messages. There's just like, honestly, the options are endless. Someone asked about top producer. Let me like just search this. Top producer. There you go. If I could spell it right. Top producer. So you can integrate with top producer. directly. And then let's see, what are some of the actions that they have here? So here you can create a contact in Top Producer, and then this would probably be a really good place to have as the trigger event. So when you created a contact in Top Producer, you can add a field, I'm sure, and have it add that personalized link into the field. Does anyone else have any specific CRM that they use? Delete, really delete. Okay. Does anybody want to throw their CRM into the chat? Oh, okay. So we have someone saying, how did you add top producer? Okay, so if you go into Zaps, I would say probably you would want to set up that first automation with it. So I would say your trigger would probably be top producer. Oh, trigger not available. Interesting. So obviously, I'm an iDecide employee. I don't know everything that there is to know about all of the other apps. But I will write this one down and I'll look into what triggers and automations you can create with them. I'm going to look up that. And then maybe I can give you more of an understanding after. So we can look into this together, Dave. Someone says Auber. Yep, A Weber. So then you can choose any of these trigger events. So it looks like maybe new field would be a good one, or new subscriber triggers when a new subscriber is added to your list. Triggers when a new account is added. I've never heard of this one, so I don't really know what these mean. I don't know what a field necessarily means, but my initial reaction would say to do new subscribers. So every time a new subscriber was added, then the action would be that you would create that iDecide personalized link for them. Salesforce, that's a good one. Change. I don't know which one you have. We'll do essentials. Trigger events. So you have all these different trigger events. Updated field on a record is probably a good one, or updated record. So when any record of the specified Salesforce object, the contact, the deal, to do is updated. Triggers when a field of your choosing is updated. So this is probably a good one. Anytime that you update or add something new, a new record is probably what I'm looking for. A new contact is added. So if this is the case, let's say we want to do this. Well, I don't have a Salesforce account, so I'm not going to be able to get any further. But when you configure it, it's going to have its own set of fields that you can update and that you can choose like how you want the trigger to work. And then in your iDecide, you're going to say, okay, what you're going to pull the first name from your new record in Salesforce. So the process is pretty much the same as when we were doing it with the Google Sheet. The only difference is that you're going to interchange what your apps are. If you want to have a different CRM in place of your Google Sheet, you can. And if you want to have a different app in place of Gmail, like maybe you send all of your emails through Salesforce, then instead of having this app as your Gmail, this app would then be replaced with Salesforce. Someone said, is there a number I can call? We're not currently offering phone support, but you can email hi@idecide.com. And I did write down your name and top producer, Dave. So I'm going to look into this after and then I'll send you an email as long as I can find your email address. But I do have your name and CRM written down. Do I have any other questions about how to set up automations, different things that you can do? Okay. So if not, then I'm going to show you one more automation that's more advanced. So one thing that iDecide is really cool about is we send you a finish notification telling you exactly what your viewer chose throughout the presentation. So you might be interested in, oh, hold on, let me just copy this email. So you might be interested in, sorry guys, give me 1 second. Dave sent me his email and I just want to be sure that I can follow up with him after. Okay. So, one of the really advanced things that you could do is have different automations spark based on what your viewer chose in the presentation. So, what does this mean? Let's say you work with a company that's MLM, multi-level marketing, and you can send an iDecide link and the viewer can choose whether they want to look at your products or if they're interested in joining your team to start working with your company, right? So you can have the automation trigger based on what they chose, how they want to move forward. Another example is, do you struggle with headaches or constant fatigue or X, Y, and Z? And then based on what they chose, you can send them a different follow up sequence that recommends a product for headaches because they chose headaches. So, how do we do that? Now we're going to change. I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to change the app. And what I want now is for my trigger to be iDecide. And the trigger event is going to be anytime someone finishes watching your presentation. So, what exactly does that mean? iDecide finished is either when they reach the absolute end of your presentation or even when they abandon. So, let's say they only watch half of your presentation and then they exit the screen. iDecide considers that a finished, they finished watching, and we still trigger this automation and the notifications telling you what they chose to see up until that point. So finish notification is going to be your safest bet. The other thing that you could do is when a post link is started, this is pretty limiting because this is going to start it at the beginning. So you're not going to get any of the information that they answered along the way. But this is really good if you want to add the contact information that they said in the post link into your contact form. You can do that here, but you're not going to get any of those choices they made unless you use iDecide Finish. So I always like to use iDecide Finish. I think it's the safest bet, and you can still get their full name and email through the finished. Okay. iDecide, which iDecide do we want it to be? And I forget which one I used. I think probably presentation 1. Test trigger. And we're going to go ahead and just take this information. Then you could say, okay, well, what do I want to do with this? Do I want to add it into my Google Sheets? When the iDecide is finished into Google Sheets. No, I want to do, okay, sorry guys, I'm getting a little confused. Really delete. Okay, so I'm going to go back into my Google Sheet and I'm going to update. I'm going to have this be choices. And then what I'm going to have it do is update, kind of the same thing, update the row. Update spreadsheet row, account, select. We're going to go through and we're going to find the sheet again. Okay, and now we want it to update the row, hey, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, no. I want it to refresh so that I can get the row 6. Okay. I think you should just be able to put in row 6 because it's going to update 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry guys, we're doing this together in real time. Okay, and then what do we want it to do? Now you'll see here choices did populate. So we wanted to update with what were the viewers' choices. So now that we pulled the iDecide finished, iDecide is going to pass over to Zapier absolutely everything that it can from the view record that the person just had. So you could see that the viewer's first name is Patrick. Um, we didn't add Patrick's email or phone number into the iDecide account, but if you had it, like here, all of these are going to have a full name, email, and phone number attached to it. But this is just sample data. So here is going to be choices made. You could see here are all the choices that Patrick made in the presentation. You could also look at which slides did they view. So maybe you're not so interested about how did they answer the questions. You just want to know which main menu options did they choose to see, right? So you want to know that they looked at am I eligible? Or understanding the R&D tax credit portion of the presentation. So you could also choose the slides viewed. Outcome is going to be how did they choose to move forward? So, did they actually make it to the end of the presentation? Did they choose to schedule a call, buy your products, apply for a free consultation? You could also look at the date and time that they started watching, and you can see the full finish notification. So you could see this is what we send when this viewer, anytime a viewer finishes watching the presentation. I wanted to put in the viewer choices. So I'm going to go back to the choices made because that's what my title is. And then click on continue. We can test the step. And then you'll see that it's going to add all the choices. I do think okay. So when I hard coded in 6, it's automatically always going to update 6. So that's not what we want to happen. But this is good. So every time that you test the step, you want to see, is it working the way that I thought? No. Okay, how do we fix that? We're going to come back over here to configure. The row is should not be hard coded. So then we need to see custom. We need to see if we can pull the ID. I'm wondering if I did this a little wrong. The CRM specific ID is going to be the best if you're using like HubSpot because this is basically doing what I'm trying to do with Gmail or with the Google Sheet is how do we tell this Zap which record to connect the choices to? Remember when I was doing, I'm going to just save this, skip test. And exit. Okay. So you'll remember when I was going into the live training sample, when I pulled up this, and then remember if we edit this Zap, I told you that the CRM specific ID is really important because this is basically doing what I'm trying to do right now with the Google Sheet is when you put your HubSpot, maybe like let's just say it looks like this contact is going to be linked to this HubSpot ID number. And each CRM is going to have its own version of this. This is super important because then it's going in the next step, it's going to link that view back to this HubSpot contact. So now what I'm trying to do here in my next app is, oh, where was I? Oh no, it didn't save. Okay, here, maybe this one. What the heck? Sorry, guys, I think I lost my Zap that I was just making. Because it should start with this. Okay, well, hopefully you're getting the point. So what we're going to do then is you could do anything with those choices. And based on whatever the choices are, you can have it automatically send like if this choice includes I work with business owners, then you're going to send them different emails that talk about, okay, so if you work with business owners, here's the follow-up email specifically that applies to you. Um, I'll try to get a better example and make it work. I'll use an actual CRM. I'll do them with Go High Level because that's a CRM that iDecide uses. And then I can send that out along with this recording so that you could see how is this actually applied in real life. Does anybody have any other questions about how to use iDecide and like include the viewer's choices? Okay, I don't see any other questions coming in about it. Amazing. So we went over connecting your apps. We went over how to build the automations. Now, how do you get support after this call? So we have all these different ways that you can get help. You can email hi@idecide.com. We have knowledge-based articles that go very in deep on how to create Zaps. We have social media where we post quick tips, tricks, tutorials. I'm going to do these live trainings every Thursday, and then we do have video walkthroughs as well. So if you don't have any questions today, I'm going to open it up to a live Q&A if you do have questions. I know I stumbled through that last part. So if you do have any questions, I totally understand and I'll be here to answer those. But as you go and you apply this, and maybe I send you the recording and you start trying to set it up with your own CRM, if you have questions, you could always send an email to hi@idecide.com. Again, obviously, we are iDecide experts, so we're not going to know everything about every CRM, but we're definitely happy to work with you and try to figure it out together if we don't know the answer right away. Okay, someone said, do you have to tag the buttons to make it work? So this I think is asking about if you have a My iDecide account and you build your own presentations, there is an option to enable external analytics. And then when you create a button, there's an option for you to track the responses. You're going to want to turn that on, and then that's how we pass this along to Zapier. So let me pull that up and show you what that means in actuality. Pull up my iDecide account. Okay, here we go. Okay, so for this user, he's asking about he has an iDecide Pro subscription where he builds his own presentations. And this is kind of what that looks like. In this option here, you could see how to fit to screen. So this is where I created some sort of main menu. That if you don't have a pro subscription, tune out what I'm talking about right now. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. But if you do have a pro subscription and you created this as a button, see where it says track choice. I have it off. If you have it off, it is not going to send to your external analytics. It's not going to be given to Zapier. If you have it as on, we will pass whatever you write in this choice name through to Zapier. So maybe this is my main menu process. Manufacturing. Manufacturing process. So then what this is going to do is automatically, when your Zap runs, it's going to track this choice and tell me that my viewer chose this option here. And you would just want to do that with every choice that you want to track. Because this is how you tell us, hey, I want this information. Otherwise, it's going to give, if you turn every button on and you don't actually care if they click the button, maybe it was just an interaction to move forward. You don't want it to bog down your analytics. So you get to choose what we pass, but this track choices is how you're going to do that. Great question. Oh, okay, great. So someone says you created a few Zaps. Can you use the branching to consolidate? Yes. So the reason that I broke it up into a few Zaps is because I think you need a paid subscription to Zapier if you want to have like multiple steps. I think with the free subscription or with just the basic one, I think you could do up to two actions. So I tried to keep it to something that would be applicable to everyone without having to upgrade to a higher subscription. But if you do have one of those higher subscriptions, I think you can go for, you could have five different actions and branch off and do a bunch of different things. So yes, you could definitely consolidate it if you just need the better Zapier subscription. Okay, someone said, is Zapier a CRM? No. So Zapier is not actually a CRM itself. All that it does is it integrates a bunch of apps that don't have direct integrations together. So what does this mean? iDecide doesn't directly connect to HubSpot. So if you have a HubSpot and you have an iDecide subscription, to send people a link in HubSpot, you have to actually log into iDecide, add the contact, create the link, and then copy it and paste it into your HubSpot. What Zapier does is it kind of acts as that middleman and says, here, I'll give this data to HubSpot so that you, as the user, don't have to do it manually. So it doesn't actually hold the data, it just passes it from one person to another. Someone says, do you know a good CRM? So I don't think I'm an iDecide professional. I'm not really allowed to like make recommendations, and I honestly don't know. I think that different CRMs are probably better for your use case. At iDecide, we have been using Go High Level because that's what a lot of our companies work with. A lot of our clients use Go High Level, so we've adopted that so we can integrate easier with them. But we've used other CRMs before. I know HubSpot is really popular. Another one that I've heard of our people using is Pipedrive, but I've never logged in or used it, so I'm not really sure. But I'm sure you could do Google or ask ChatGPT, tell it about your business and what you use it for and what kind of CRM you're looking for, and I'm sure it can make a couple recommendations for you. But those are just a couple that I've heard of. Okay, I don't see any other questions coming in, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys go. If you think of any other questions, hi@idecide.com, or we have a knowledge base that you could reference as well. And I will be sending out this training, and hopefully, I'm gonna go try to figure out a couple things that I was asked in the chat, and then I'll be able to send some of that follow-up information along with this recording. So, thank you guys so much for bearing with me as I probably stumbled through this first training. I am looking forward to your feedback and to see what kind of automations you guys made with Zapier. Thanks.